I'm Reisigo, and I'm attempting to complete every single GameCube game, but I'm randomizing what game I'm playing next. Game 77 is FireBlade, a flight simulator where we destroy everything with a helicopter. FireBlade was released on December 29, 2002, and was developed by Kuja Entertainment and published by Midway. In FireBlade, we're going to go through all 4 campaigns to consider this one complete for the challenge. Each one of these campaigns are broken into missions. So for example, the first campaign has a total of 5 missions to complete. Each mission is usually different, and doing all of the campaigns instead of just one gives us a full scope for the game, and I can have a more educated opinion on the game once I finish playing it. If you didn't already know, FireBlade is considered a flight simulation game, where we play as a character that can pilot an advanced helicopter gunship as part of the FireBlade Task Force, hence the name of the game. Since this game focuses mainly on destruction and gameplay, the story for this one, well, it's not very good. The whole point of the story is that we're fighting an enemy known as the United Eastern States. We believe that they're building terrorist training camps and factories to produce weapons of mass destruction. Oh, do you remember around this time that most games were themed around the idea of weapons of mass destruction, just because of real life events? But that's basically all we get in the way of story. Each mission gives us a briefing of what's happening in that current scenario, but nothing else really. There's no main characters, we rarely get cutscenes, and when we do, they're just action-packed with 0 story elements. So if you're looking for a great story, this isn't one. As for gameplay, we pilot a helicopter, and we just need to cause mass chaos and take out large groups of enemies. Which mission 1 will teach us everything we need to know moving forward. The first mission is called Welcome to FireBlade, and we start off by learning how to take off with our helicopter, which seems weird because a lot of this game doesn't even start you off on the ground. We usually just get control of the helicopter while it's already flying. So to teach us how to take off was a little weird. But let's talk about the basic controls for piloting. We have to use the C-stick to start our engine, then we can use it to adjust our altitude and control our sideways motions. This will move us left and right. The control stick is used separately and controls our forward and back motions. We can also turn our helicopter with the control stick going left and right. This will become important because we usually need to face the way we're attacking to actually land our shots on the enemy. I had to mess around with this a little bit to actually learn the controls, but after playing for about 10 or 15 minutes, this control scheme actually works extremely well. You sort of just have to train your brain to remember which one does which motion. Our first task after learning how to fly the helicopter is to fly around for a while, getting used to the controls and collecting 3 power-ups scattered around the base. I actually really like that they give you the freedom here to figure out how to play before they just throw you into the pool hoping that you can figure out how to swim. When flying around, we can find power-ups, ammo, and health boxes scattered around each level. The most important one of these is going to be health, but not for a little while. I'll talk more about specific power-ups later on when we collect them, but for now, just know I'm going to be looking for ammo and health boxes for most of this game. Once we get the 3 power-ups of health, missiles, and rockets, the game shows us how to read the radar, which is in the top left corner of the screen and is pretty simple to read. The objectives are blue, allies are green, things that need destroyed are yellow, and enemies show up as red. Pretty standard stuff. We're tasked with taking out a small camp of enemies in this first section of the mission. We can now hold down the R button and use our minigun. This will auto-lock on the enemy that is closest to us, so we don't really have to line up our attacks when using this one. Next up is rocket training. We can fire these when holding down the L button, and our aim is shown in a little circle in the middle of the screen. Meaning for these ones, we have to actually aim that circle at whatever we're trying to destroy. This takes some actual effort, and we can easily miss with these, but they do a lot more damage than our minigun. Then finally we get our training for missiles. These can be used with the Z button, and they'll auto-lock onto enemies. It does take a second for it to lock on though, so you have to be a little more careful. These are our most powerful weapons that we have, and they can blow up most things in just one shot, especially the smaller enemies, jeeps, and ammo trucks. We can override the auto-targeting of these with the A button, but honestly, I didn't have to use this much during my playthrough of the game. It actually does a very good job at targeting what I want it to target. Now that we know how to use all the attack weapons, we can now activate our stealth mode by hitting up on the control pad. This allows for us to sneak for stealth missions and give us access to the sniper for taking out infantry, and our EMPs to stop enemy vehicles in their tracks. This will become incredibly useful in the future. The later levels in this game are just brutal at times, but I think there's only like 2 or 3 stealth missions in the whole game where we can't be detected. So stealth isn't all that important. After spending way too much time trying to figure out the stealth section of this training, because I thought I needed to shoot the targets with the sniper and not EMP them, we complete our training and we get a call from the training facility telling us that it's under attack and we need to fly back and protect the base and clear out the enemies. We head back to the training facility and we can finally use what we've learned in a real scenario. There are a bunch of tanks, jeeps, and ground units when we arrive, and we just have to fly around and destroy everything. Since I was still getting used to playing this game, this ended up being much more difficult than I expected it to be. If I would have gone back and tried this again later on, I would have had this mission finished in record time. During the assault, we're told that we can boost our helicopter by holding the B button. This will let us catch up to enemy helicopters in the future, but it's honestly just a great way to get from place to place in these wide open maps. Because when we fly normally, our speed is so slow that it feels like an absolute chore. Even though we ended up losing the training facility from the attack, we completed the mission and were given some stats for our efforts. At the end of each mission, it will tell us how many of the different enemy types we destroyed, our kill percentage, and any medals we collected during that mission. Which honestly, I have no idea how we got any of these. The game never mentions how to earn them. They just sort of show up. But since the tutorial is all done and over with, we can move on to the first real mission of the game, called Defend the Base. Once we finally load into this mission, we're thrown right into the action. There are already enemy forces in the base we need to defend, so we have to clear those out first, but that's not the main objective of this mission. To complete the mission, we're tasked with destroying 3 bridges to slow down the advancement of the enemy forces. But before I talk about that, I do want to mention how slow the loading screens are in this game. I was waiting for minutes just to load into a single mission. We're spoiled nowadays with loading times, because this was awful. Anyways, this mission is pretty straightforward. We head to each bridge and we blow it up by shooting it with rockets, stopping the advancement of the enemy and protecting the base. Once the bridges are destroyed, we have to head back to the base and clear out the remaining enemies. This will finally allow us to complete this mission. Pretty simple overall, and it allowed for me to get more used to the controls of this game. Next up is a mission called Crack the Encryption. This mission is our first stealth mission of the game, but if you're quick enough, you can get away with just taking everything out with EMPs and the sniper. This feels broken because we actually don't need to move slowly from area to area. We just have to do it quickly and take them out. We're tasked with taking a group of ground soldiers into enemy lines, protecting them, and then picking them back up once they complete their mission. All we have to do is prevent them and us from getting spotted and stop any troops that try to report us to the main enemy base, or we fail the mission. If we alert a group of enemies, we have a short window that we could just take them out before they can actually report us, so that's why I mentioned that as long as we're quick, you don't have to be stealthy. Even though we can speed up this mission, it still takes forever, and I failed it multiple times because I would miss one single soldier that would report in and we would fail. Or one time, one of my soldiers died randomly and I failed the mission. So I was getting extremely frustrated with this one. Without boring you too much, we took out a bunch more soldiers, EMP'd more vehicles before picking up our troops and completing the mission. And now we can move on to the next one. Maybe one that's more interesting. The next mission is called Strike 3, and we're tasked with destroying 3 bases that we were able to identify, but before we head to them, we need to take out their command and control center. This mission is more of the same, but since we don't have to be stealthy, we can just destroy things quickly and move on. I'm going to begin summing up a lot of these missions moving forward because they're all basically the same thing at their core, just in a different setting. I'll mention anything new that takes place or anything that I feel is interesting or made me mad, but we're going to just be flying through some of the missions now. The only thing to really mention in this one is that I'm almost always out of ammo for my rockets and missiles. I have no idea if this was just bad luck, but I had to take out most things in this one with my minigun on the front of the helicopter, making this mission super long. And this mission dragged on as it was, constantly having to fly back to command and control center and previously destroyed bases just to see if I could get more rockets or missiles. I was able to finish this mission with a 97 kill percentage, meaning I almost destroyed every building, vehicle, and infantry unit in this mission. Not too bad, really. Now to move on to the final mission for this campaign. Usually the final missions for each campaign amp up the difficulty and add in something special or a timer that becomes extremely annoying. This mission is called Take No Prisoners, and in this one, the enemy's offensive is retreating north up the river. We need to catch up to them, disrupt their escape, and destroy them. Intel reports to us and tells us that there are 4 hoverboats that are evacuating their troops, and we need to destroy all of them before they can get to the far side of the river. This mission ended up giving me a bunch of trouble for some reason. I would either run out of ammo and the hovercraft would escape, or I would get destroyed by the troops hanging out on the shore. Whatever it was, something about this mission made me have to try it multiple times before I could finish it. Because I did this mission so many times, I was able to basically speedrun it because I knew where all the enemies would spawn and what was the best way to take them all out. I found that the EMP shots were extremely effective in this mission though. As long as we hit the boats surrounding the hovercrafts once, they would be taken out for the entire mission, and then we could come back later and blow them up if we needed to. So that was the strategy I used to complete this one. We even found out that one of the hovercrafts had a weapon of mass destruction on board. So we destroyed that too. During this mission though, if you get too far ahead or don't destroy a specific thing, then the next session of boats won't spawn in. Just an interesting note, because sometimes I would try to go too far ahead and nothing would happen. Once we complete the mission, we get an actual cutscene of our helicopter flying in on the last smoking hovercraft and blowing it up with a missile before taking off into the distance. I'm not sure why they added these in, considering we already destroyed the hovercraft. So this cutscene takes place after the event that already happened. What an odd choice. Anyways, I got a 100% kill percentage on this one, which might be the only time during the whole game that I was able to do this, and we got a campaign medal for completing Campaign 1. Now we can move on to Campaign 2. Campaign 2 has 4 missions just like Campaign 1, but this time we're going to spend a lot of our time in the desert. The first mission for this campaign is called Vendetta Facility. This mission is extremely basic. Protect our base as waves of enemies come in trying to destroy it. We have health meters for the buildings inside of the base, and we just have to take out all the enemies to finish the mission. It's extremely easy, but took over 10 minutes to complete, which just seemed way too long. Anyways, that gives us access to Mission 2 called Rescue Brooks. We're tasked with flying around and finding Brooks. She was shot down, but they're having trouble locating her in the canyons around the desert. The whole idea of this mission is to take out all the enemy forces before they find her location. So as long as we're quick taking out all of the enemies, this one ends up being extremely easy. Once we locate her, we have to take out a bunch of enemies that are circling her location before we can actually land and pick her up. The only other thing to mention about this one is that we're attacked by enemy helicopters, which we haven't really dealt with at this point. And since they whip around pretty quickly, sometimes they hit us a ton before I was able to actually line up my shot and take them out. The helicopters sort of bounce around when flying, but only when they're far away from us. I have no idea why that happens, but it's interesting to look at. Once we destroyed all the helicopters, we complete the mission, and we actually got another 100% for this one. The next mission is called Vendetta Recovery, and in this mission we have to stay in stealth mode and to guide Ramez and his team into enemy territory to recover the Vendetta helicopter that was stolen from us. This is our second mission that requires us to stay in stealth mode, or we cause Ramez and his team to be spotted and killed. So we kind of have to be stealthy. This took me a couple attempts to complete, but once I figured out I could EMP all the enemy vehicles before they activated, this mission became extremely easy. All I needed to do from there on was kill all the soldiers that were patrolling the base. Once we get the helicopter back, I just have to watch Ramez and his team get back out of the base and we complete the mission, heading into the final mission of the second campaign. This mission is called Stop the Express. In the briefing for this mission, we find out that the enemy is looking to move out a prototype weapon from their facility in the hills, and we need to stop that. The enemy decided that they were going to put it on a train, and we have a ground team ready to stop it. Then they'll get on the train, add explosives, and send it on its way into the hills. We're tasked with supporting this team and then lifting a railgun that was being transported on the train out of the area. And the only real thing to mention is that when we stop this train, there are endless amounts of soldiers that come out of this thing. It's like hundreds and hundreds of soldiers with RPGs. That if we let them, will inflict massive damage. This ends up being very important to avoid, because if we do get hit with a lot of these RPGs, we'll have no health to deal with all the enemy helicopters that come and attack us right afterwards. I actually failed this mission a couple times right after this part, because I just didn't have the health to deal with the helicopters. Overall though, it is a pretty easy mission, and once we do complete it, we finish the campaign. Once again, we get an actual cutscene after completing the mission of the train heading into the enemy base that's in the hills, and then it explodes. We only get to see the fire escaping from the opening to the tunnel, but we can assume the base was crushed from it. That completes campaign number 2, and we can move on to campaign number 3. In campaign number 3, there are a total of 4 missions again, and these ones take place in more of like a city or town area, and for some reason I really struggled with a couple of these missions. The first mission is called Flush 'em Out. We arrive in an abandoned city on the Amazon basin, and the enemies have set up strongholds in the old subway system. Our goal is to flush them out of the subway and to take them out after. We can use our newly acquired minigun in this mission, which basically shoots a massive energy wave that will destroy the stronger vehicles and weapons that the enemies have now. This replaces our missiles, but honestly, I prefer the missiles because they lock onto the enemy, and the minigun, it doesn't. My struggle with this level was just not knowing what we were supposed to destroy and wasting all my good weapons on shooting at random things. And then when I actually needed them, I didn't have them. The enemy will attack with tanks, these trucks with the mounted gun on the back, these trucks that shoot missiles at us that cause massive damage, and they have these anti-air cannons on the ground. We're going to be dealing with these for most of the upcoming missions now, and they'll end up being a giant pain. The big complaint with these missions that I have is they sort of take forever. So if you die late in the mission, you have to start all the way back from the beginning, making this game take way longer to finish than it ever should have. But after blowing up all the vents to the subways, we complete this mission, and we get to move on to the next one called Downtown Destruction. The enemy is flushed out of the sewers, and our task is to eliminate all the enemies before our ground forces arrive. This is just a lot of flying around and blowing stuff up. We also just need to be extremely careful of the snipers hiding out in the buildings, because for some reason they do a ton of damage to us. But outside of the snipers, it's just all the normal enemies. There are a total of 6 areas covered with anti-air guns, so we need to just move to each one of them, taking out all the anti-air guns, the tanks, and trucks that are there, and that will allow us to complete the mission and move on. Which after a long time I was able to do with only a couple of the snipers blowing up my helicopter and having to start over. Another long one, but we completed it and moved on to the next mission called Jailbreak. In this mission, we're tasked with heading to a prison complex to rescue some hostages and military personnel. You would think this is a stealth mission, but actually we just have to go from section to section of this city, taking out all the boats and enemies before finally getting to the prison. When we arrive, we free all the hostages, and then we just have to follow them back so the enemies don't kill them when they're on their way to freedom. I had to do this mission a second time because I accidentally blew up a bridge that they needed to cross, so they were just sort of stuck and couldn't move anywhere. Which was extremely annoying because it took me like 15 minutes to get to that point. And I lost it all because of something getting destroyed on accident. Anyways, after completing Jailbreak, we can move on to the final mission of the campaign called Dam and Blast. This mission is just destroying anything that belongs to the enemy. We're going to do this by destroying a dam and having all the water from behind it flood the city that the enemy is currently occupying. So this one should be a fun one. It wasn't. We have to follow Ramez and his team again as they go inside the dam and set time explosives. Then we need to pick them up and fly out of the area so that we're not affected. The enemy does throw a bunch of units at us, but at this stage of the game, it's nothing we're not used to. After multiple attempts, we were able to complete this mission. We get a cutscene of the explosives going off inside the dam, and a bunch of water comes out and wipes out all the enemy camps right outside of it. Then it shows us our helicopter flying away like a cool guy that doesn't look at explosives, and that's it, we completed campaign 3. And now we can move on to the last campaign in this game, and mark this game off as complete. Campaign 4 has 5 missions, so it's a bit longer than the other ones, but most of the missions end up being somewhat on the shorter side. So let's dive right into the first mission called Beachhead. In this mission, we have to destroy 2 large fortresses that block our advancement, but we can't actually blow them up. We need to just take out the enemies and allow for our troops to overthrow them. We have 1 minute before our troops arrive, so we need to take out as many cannons and guns as we can before then. All these missions take place in a cold region with snow everywhere. The best method in this mission is to EMP all the anti-air guns, and then we don't have to worry about anything for the rest of the mission. So it's just a matter of waiting it out at that point. Since I failed this mission on my first attempt, I sort of speedran the second attempt that I completed it on. I even got 100% on this mission, so it's not too bad. The next mission is called Hunt and Kill, and we're tracking down 2 hovercrafts that aren't aware of us coming after them. We're given swarming missiles in this mission that allow for us to shoot 6 missiles at a time. Our objective is to take out everything and don't hold back. It literally says it in the briefing. We find out that there's more to this mission though, and we just have to take out a massive convoy of enemy troops and then destroy the seaport that they were heading to, which is heavily fortified, so this part slows us down for a bit, but we can get rid of all the anti-air troops and guns, and then the rest is pretty easy. This mission has the potential to be pretty short as long as you don't blow up in the process. After destroying everything at the seaport, we're successful in our mission and we can move on to mission 3. This mission is called Ramez in Trouble. We need to stay stealthy until we can locate the special ops team. The enemy foot patrols need to be sniped right away, and then we need to extract Ramez and his team to safety. Really, this ended up being a simple mission too, just another slow burn because of having to be stealthy. But crazy enough, this is only the 3rd mission in this game that requires us to use this mechanic, which is interesting that they didn't add more since they built such a large portion of what our helicopter can do around the idea of being stealthy. It's a weird choice in my opinion. As for the mission, this one just sort of happens. There's nothing interesting to talk about, it's not challenging, and no new enemies or objectives. So let's just move on to mission 4 of this campaign called Round 'em Up. In this one, there are a bunch of hovercrafts that were stolen, and we have to figure out which one has armed forces inside so that we can hover above them and remotely shut them down. The only problem is that there are POWs in some of them and armed forces in others, meaning we have to be extremely careful not to kill our own men or we fail the mission. This mission is another easy one, but takes forever to complete. There are just so many hovercrafts to check, and then making sure we don't kill the wrong people means that we have to use our minigun, which takes so much longer to take everything out. So buckle up on this mission, it's brutal. Outside of that though, this mission doesn't have anything to really talk about, and I feel like it's about time we tackle the final mission of the game, and the most difficult one, by a million miles. The final mission of this game is called The Fortress, and they had to have been saving this one. It's the most challenging mission in the game, and honestly, it's only because we have a time limit of 15 minutes. This means clearing out enemy troops along the way is basically instant failure, because the fortress takes so long to destroy. In this mission, we need to enter into the enemy territory and destroy their fortress compound. We have to achieve this by penetrating their defenses, then destroying their top level superstructure, and they even give us an extra task of taking out some 3C capable comms, but I didn't do that because there just wasn't enough time. So instead of doing that, I took the quickest path to the main superstructure and just started attacking it full on. We had to be careful because there are a ton of anti-air weapons, roaming troops and vehicles, and even some helicopters to deal with. The problem with this is that most of the towers and buildings we need to blow up just have so much health, and we can't just fly around because we'll get quickly taken out. But we also can't be too cautious because we don't have enough time. I used the EMP on the anti-air guns before ever getting close to the fortress, taking out some of the smaller vehicles when I could. I would always go out of my way to collect health because I always needed it. There are massive boulders that we can hide behind, which saved my life a bunch of times, but those can also get destroyed. We still need to pay attention because the little minigun truck things that roam around are almost in every single area around this fortress. Using our boost is extremely important to get away, and since we don't have missiles, we need to be extremely wise with our railgun. After clearing out most of the weapons on the base and destroying about half the towers, we're attacked by a bunch of helicopters that become a real issue if you don't have any rockets or railgun ammo. I got lucky in this run because they retreated from me and I was able to shoot them down with my minigun and the few rockets that I had without taking any real damage. Once they're gone, we head back to the fortress and continue to blow stuff up. leaving us just 7 minutes to deal with them and the special surprise after. After destroying everything we need to, this massive laser comes out of the ground in the middle of the fortress, and now we need to blow this thing up. And we only have 6 minutes to do it. This thing will melt us if we're hit with it, so we need to always be moving, and we can only hit it during specific windows. In order for us to destroy this, we need to shoot 3 railgun shots down the barrel of the laser. This is very challenging because if we linger in front of it for too long, we get hit with the laser and blow up. This laser has a second attack that fires lasers into the air, and we need to boost away in order to avoid them when they come crashing down. We had to reserve ammo for the railgun because there aren't any enemies around to drop more ammo if we mess it up. And it's especially bad if we just start this part without any ammo. There are occasionally helicopters that will attack during this part, but they aren't guaranteed to drop the ammo we need, and I mostly hope for health anyways. I tried this mission over a half a dozen times before I finally completed it. I was just getting so frustrated with how long it took to destroy everything we needed to. And when I did destroy everything, I barely had any time to spare. How do people blow up all the comms towers too? That makes no sense to me. With just over 2 minutes remaining and almost no health, I was able to hit it for the 3rd time, destroying it finally. I was so happy to finally take this thing out. Once we complete the mission, we get a cutscene showing a satellite shooting a missile down to the location of the fortress, and then that missile blows it up into smithereens. It's actually a pretty cool cutscene. They decided to show off their Michael Bay for this one. We finally get the complete mission screen where I got 8%. I crushed that mission, let me tell ya. We did get the game complete medal and were treated with credits. We completed another game for our GameCube challenge, so now it's time to find out if I would recommend this one. So would I recommend this? Sure, I think I would. I'm not the biggest fan of flight simulators, but this one was pretty fun once I got used to the controls. Is this something I would actively seek out? Probably not, but it was a nice change of pace. The game is pretty straightforward with what it expects out of the player, but I just felt like the missions took way too long, especially if you were trying to actually destroy all the enemy troops and buildings. So I would recommend it, but maybe just for fans of the genre. But I want you to let me know what you think about it in the comments below. If you want to know what game we're playing next, stick around, but if not, thanks for watching. Check out the last GameCube game that we completed in our challenge that's on the screen now. And if you made it this far, make sure to subscribe to the channel because it helps me out. Like and share this video so we can get more eyes on the challenge. And as always, I'll see you in the next one. We got our GameCube list up. We have our random number generator up. And on the count of 3, we are going to find out what we're playing next. So 3, 2, 1. 38, which is Bionicle Heroes.